So, this is going to be a really interesting chat actually, because there's a couple of things that you've done that I was looking into for 2021. Obviously, with the current race
Okay.
situation, meant that what I was planning to do is probably going to be shifted. But
Yeah.
before we talk about some of the kind of achievements and some of the events you've taken part in, what about a little bit of background as to, I suppose, your athletic background? How did you get to a stage where you could then, move forward into the triathlon? Were
Yeah.
you
Okay.
blank canvas, or were you, do you have a little something behind you?
Yeah. So, oh, blimey. I've always loved sport, I guess. I did my first triathlon when I was about 17. Um, that was a sprint triathlon. I bought a bike off, oh God, like some classified ads, and just basically trained. I rode and cycled and swam enough, I think, to get me through, and I ended up winning my age group for that one. And then I thought that was a brilliant springboard to the next season. And I started training for the next season and promptly got knocked off my bike. And I didn't really ride. I didn't ride at all then. On the road for years. It was probably like a good 10 years maybe until I rode on the road again. I was doing a lot of mountain biking, so I guess I'm a mountain biker mainly. So I was doing a lot of 24-hour races, 12-hour races. Um, so I'm a cyclist, and then I was using running to get me fit for Thai boxing. So I did a couple of years of Thai boxing, became an instructor, and was using running as a kind of quick and dirty way of getting fit for that. So again, a bit dumb really, but going out and running up hills really quickly, and then um, running uh, I running distance to get a bit of endurance, but no kind of training or anything. It wasn't. I was more kind of focused on my technique and my fitness, I guess. So that's kind of it, really. I'm not like an outstanding school athlete. I didn't really do anything like that. I don't think I was kind of good enough to. I didn't represent the county or anything like that. So I swam a lot. I swam competitively as a child. I cycled because I loved it, and I ran because I needed to. Um, and then I love triathlon. I love the idea of the triathlon thing. Pretty obsessed with it through college. Had the bad cycle accident, and then about I don't know, about 27, so about 14, 15 years ago now, I did an off-road triathlon, which was a mountain bike, a late swim and a mountain bike, which was brilliant fun. But that was the only one I did, and I didn't do anything then until a couple of years ago when I decided I was going to get back into it, and like the kind of dream of Ironman reawakened. And I'd long desired to do an Ironman, but I've always kind of convinced myself I couldn't. I'm not really fit enough, or my knees hurt too much, or I know I'm 30 and I'm too old. So it was like it kind of reawakened, I guess. I met a guy during a cycle ride who was training for Ironman Wales, and we got talking, and I just couldn't stop thinking about it. As soon as we had that conversation, that was it. That was like about June last year, and from that point on, I was no, sorry, 2018, June 2018, and from that point on, I was obsessed, and that was all I could think about. So
Yeah, it's really interesting. I recall before I even started running a couple of years ago, I had a colleague at work, and her brother had done 4 or 5 Ironmans. And at the
yeah,
time, I remember
wow,
thinking to myself, I love swimming, but I hadn't really done it so much as I got older. I think there's kind of accessibility to it, and I just didn't really head down to the swimming pool that often. I enjoyed
yeah, yeah,
cycling, but I saw running as, I guess, probably the weakness at the time, because I didn't do anything like that.
really,
I felt
wow,
like
okay,
cycling was something I could do. Obviously, I remember not realizing the distances involved, and not realizing what the actual implications are in terms of training. But I just thought to myself, the one thing that's holding me back is clearly the running. And I put it to one side and forgot all about it. And then I had started my journey in running, and I was really starting to enjoy it. And then more recently, while I was training for my ultra, I thought, okay, when I've done this, what am I sort of yearning to do? My
yeah,
dad's really into cycling. He's got the road bikes. He doesn't do anything. I tried to get him to do the Ride 100, the London.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
I've tried
yeah,
to get him to do it. He's not that keen on it. But he has, if you like, some of the equipment and kit that would be of use to me if I wanted to take the next step.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
so it's when I was starting to follow your channel, and one of the videos that really got me inspired was the night trail run that you did. That was the Rogues Run, something along the lines of that.
Yeah, that was amazing.
I
Yeah,
just thought I want to be a part of that madness, and that was around the time that I decided to kind of move from the road into the trails. But the idea behind all of it was that further down the line, I would use that kind of aerobic base, the work on the hills, so that I could
yeah,
put it into a triathlon situation. And I've been doing a little bit of
yeah. Okay.
research about the local triathlons that are around me. It's unlikely to be this year, given the situation
Yeah,
that we're in. But I kind of wanted just to, I suppose, just get your insight into the approach to triathlon. What tends to be people's weakest area? Is it the swimming because of accessibility, or is it things like the cycling because of the kit that you need to be most efficient?
yeah. I think the most the most difficult aspect of triathlon is the swimming, because it's a technique-based sport. So um, I think if you look at a lot of the triathlon groups on Facebook, and a lot of the articles that are written about people that have moved into triathlon or moving into triathlon, the swimming is the one the bit that holds the biggest fear for a lot of people, because they probably weren't strong swimmers when they were kids. So you can kind of get into the water and smash yourself for 20 minutes and go nowhere, or you can get in and kind of use the correct technique, and it's kind of easy. It's not effortless, but it's easier. And I think I'm lucky in the fact that I was a competitive swimmer when I was younger, so I had technique drilled into me. And I think with cycling and running, yeah, there's a cost associated with getting a bike and getting the kind of helmet and shoes and all those sorts of things, but actually it's a relatively accessible sport. A lot of people learn to ride a bike when they were kids, and it's just one of those things that you can kind of do. And yeah, there's kind of nuances, and there's ways to get yourself better, and there's better kit, and you can upgrade, and you put aero bars on your bike. You can buy the next, like kind of helmet, or the next carbon soled pair of shoes or anything. But basically, the fitter you get, the better you are at cycling to a certain extent. Until you start talking about handling on kind of difficult roads and things. But with swimming, you can exhaust yourself very quickly if you don't have an appropriate technique. And I think that's probably the most inaccessible bit of, or the bit that holds the most fear for people, is actually getting to a pool and learning correct technique. You see a lot of people at triathlons, and even up to Ironman distances, they're doing the run, doing the swim using breaststroke. They're not swimming front crawl because they're not confident, or they've not got the technique to do it. And I think if you're not a strong swimmer and you want to, probably the biggest investment you can give yourself initially is a couple of adult swimming lessons. Learn some of the basics, and then that will improve through practice. So I've got a friend who did Ironman Wales, and he's an ultra runner. He's just bonkers. He once flew to Singapore to do a marathon. So he flew to Singapore, did a marathon, and then flew back. He didn't even book a hotel or anything. He just went and did a marathon. He's done loads of 100-milers. He's done the spine race. He's done, he moved to New Zealand a couple of years ago because the ultra running scene was bigger over there than it is in the UK. But he did Ironman Wales at the same time as me, and he kind of attacks the water. So he kind of smashes. He's got very kind of brutish technique, and he probably puts a lot of effort into not going very fast. It's like, hey, get some lessons, you'll be loads quicker, and I can give him some pointers and stuff. But I think it's that conscious practice, deliberate practice, and deliberate technique awareness that gets you fitter. All right, you're never going to win a triathlon in the swim, but you can lose one if you're not careful. And I know where I'm at with my swimming, for example. I can invest. It's a bit of a Pareto thing, so I can invest loads and loads of effort and probably cut about 2 minutes off my swim time. Whereas I could do the same amount of training with my running and probably knock 40, 50, 60, 90 minutes off my marathon time. So, it's looking at your weakness, but I think, say, the most nerve-wracking bit for a lot of people is that swim. definitely.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Just after Christmas, my local sports park, I think the Harlequins actually trained there, and they did a bit of stuff for the Olympics. Originally, that's why it was created. And
Yeah,
it's quite affordable to get down there. And I went down there, and I probably for a couple of weeks in a row, I was just getting the water, getting back used to it again.
yeah,
But like you mentioned, I'm kind of think growing up when you go through the whole school thing, it's mainly breaststroke, isn't it? And when you're on holiday
yeah,
swimming is it's just a bit of a laugh, jumping about in the water.
yeah,
But I
yeah,
started to realize, like you say, that I've got almost no good technique, efficient technique when it comes to any other stroke because I've not had anybody give me the pointers. And
yeah,
there were people next to me who were in the adult swimming lessons, and I wondered if some of it as well is because when you are younger, you just get taught a certain way how to swim, and there's a slight embarrassment, I suppose, of going back as an adult
yeah, yeah,
in well, I
definitely.
can actually swim, so why do I need a lesson? But it's no different, I imagine, to investing yourself with a coach.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think, and probably if I was going to say, if I was going to give you kind of a good bit of advice, if you're kind of keen to do a triathlon, one of the best things you can do is to join your local triathlon club, because they're generally very supportive, and invariably in the club will be a coach, and in the club will be good swimmers. And even if they're not swim coaches, a good swimmer can look at a weaker swimmer and kind of not pick apart, but kind of pick up on a few bits and pieces that will allow you to become more efficient. So it might be, your body position in the water. It might be a couple of drills that you can do. So a lot of people suffer from heavy legs, so the legs sink. So you're kind of swimming like that. You're not flat on the water. So they can advise a couple of drills that you can do with a kick float or something that will just improve your technique, improve your body position in the water. You don't have to be a qualified coach to do that. Just a, a, a swimmer that's aware of technique, I guess.
Yeah, when you're going through that process, are you seeing improvements in a similar way to as you would in the running and cycling over time, or is it more of a longer process to seeing quicker um,
Yeah,
change?
I think it's kind of nuances really. So like I've got to a point where I think it's more about now endurance. It's swim endurance in the water. I think my technique is kind of there. There's definitely stuff that I can do to improve. So I think I swam 106 for the Ironman distance, which is 3.8k. With a bit of conscientious practice and some real focus on technique, I could probably take that down by 6-7 minutes. But I think with the same amount of effort, I could probably take 45 minutes off my run time. And it would be something as simple as not even having a gait analysis. It would be something along the lines of just being better at my strength and conditioning, so my form doesn't go towards the end of the distance. It's like, well, what am I going to do? Am I going to invest, having to go to the pool an extra day a week, or to focus really, really heavily on technique and then conscious practice and then lots of endurance to build that up? Or am I going to do strength and conditioning exercises so that my technique doesn't go at mile 17 and my run slows down? It's like, well, you put your energy where you find most benefit, don't you, I guess? Yeah, I probably sounds a bit arrogant, Dan. I'm really sorry if it does.
No, not at all. No, because actually I was reminded more recently because I was looking into triathlon and duathlon, and I came across your video again. And what I really liked about that was that you're very reflective about even just your technique in the water. And you showed some clips. Initially, you were very pleased with the way you looked, and then there was another clip further on where you
Oh
say that
yeah,
you just seem to be a lot slower. And so I don't pick up on any arrogance at all. It's very reflective, and you're, if anything, sort of hard on yourself. But in you
yeah.
discussing it, I picked up on it, and I could then
Okay,
see what you were saying. I thought, well, that actually makes sense,
yeah,
because I just looked at it and thought you've probably been swimming a very long time, whereas you were, I think, being just far more particular with the way it appeared to
yeah,
you. The amount of things that you've invested in, you're balancing family life as well, which I think is something very easy to forget for people who don't have the commitment to family, the kinds of time
yeah.
that you've had to invest in your goals and your dreams. I mean, it's quite special that you've been able to balance the two and work,
Thank
of
you.
course.
Yeah, yeah. So I think I'm blessed in the fact I've got a very understanding wife, and so kind of going way back before the Ironman, I've been speaking to Adam, the guy on the bike, and I'm actually really good friends with him now, even though he's cost me a lot of money and a lot of time. I said to Kate that I really, really want to do this Ironman thing, and Wales is the one I want to do because it's Tenby and we've holidayed in Tenby a lot, and I love Tenby. It's such an amazing place, and I kind of said to her that I want to go and see it. I want to go and see what it's about, what it feels like, but I want you to see it as well, because if we're gonna do this, it's not me doing it, it's us, and I think we all need to commit to 12 months of hard training. And I know what I can do, so I can invest in a coach and I can get up early and do the training. But I think you need to understand what it's going to involve and the scale of it, but then you can invest in that as well, because I'm going to be a bit rubbish for the next 12 months in terms of parental duties and stuff around the house, and you might be picking up more than you would normally, so let's make sure we're all okay with it. And I think that was probably the most important step in the whole journey, I think, was just getting buy-in from the whole family. So we went down as a family and we spent the day watching the Ironman, and the kids came away absolutely buzzing, and Kate was kind of being enthused with it as well. But it is a commitment. It is a lot of time, and I remember joking with Andy Rayner, the Forest Team runner, and he was saying, I've had a big week, I've done like 8 hours. I was like, mate, that's my recovery weeks at the moment. I'm doing like 12, 14 hours a week. And you just have to find a balance. But I think it's about making sure you've got a really strong why. You know why you want to do it. You know what the why is that's going to motivate you to that start line. And I kind of said to Kate a lot during the time that the Ironman race, the actual race, is just pretty much a victory lap. It's just to celebrate actually committing and spending all that time and effort in training. And we made the decision last year that we were going to have a baby, so a third child. So Maisie was born in July and the race was in September. So Kate was pregnant through quite a bit of my training, but then obviously we had a newborn in the house, and that really affected the training in the last couple of months. And we were also extending the house, so we went from having 2 kids in a nice stable house. I changed jobs. We then extended the house. We put an extra 2 bedrooms on the place, and we had a baby. It was just like, it was a chaotic year. Probably not what I want to repeat, if I'm honest, but I guess it just, and it proved to me the power of why, and that's the thing I've taken away from it is, coming out of the Ironman, I was committed to training. I had a couple of knee issues and kind of overuse injuries, I guess. And I started to get back into training, but I just didn't have the heart for it. And as a result, I just bumbled along the bottom for a little while, not really training because my why wasn't strong enough, And I think if you want to commit to something that's kind of as big as an ultra, how much training you've put into your ultra, the journey that you've done to your ultra running. You've got to commit that amount of time and that effort. And if you weren't fully committed to it at the start, then halfway through, you probably just give up because it's easier to. And I think that's kind of, I'm rambling. Sorry, mate.
No. It's when you mentioned the ultra, it's an interesting time for me right now because I'd put aside that amount of time to train for the ultra, and I did so.
Yeah.
And I was ready as much as I could be ready for race day. Because of injury, I knew I wasn't perfect for it, but at the same time, I was in my head. I felt very strong about at least completing it. But now it's been potentially postponed to September. I'm in a very, very strange place where what am I going to do with my training? Because I could continue from this point on and be hard at it all the way up to September, which could not happen again.
Exactly.
Or I give it some time and try and wait for some sort of green light that it's definitely going to happen, at which point it could be too late. I'm not really certain what I'm going to do. I'm enjoying running at the moment, but I'm definitely not sticking to a plan. I've just left that sort of by the wayside whilst I try and figure out where I want to put my attention. But ultimately, at the moment, family comes first, just in these strange times. But it also means all the work I've put in, I'm kind of plateauing right now.
But what an amazing thing I think, because I think that you've put your training to good use anyway, mate. Because you did that indoor marathon, which was just like bonkers. I can't believe that you ran 26 miles in your living room. It was just ridiculous. And I kind of checked in when you first started it because you were live streaming it. I remember watching it and then like just gonna grab your phone. Yeah, he's still running. That's mental. And like just wow, you know what an incredible thing to do. So like you've kind of made such great use of your training, and you not only did it, but you did it for such a good cause as well. And I think you've got to be proud of your achievement with that. Even if you don't do your ultra, which would be unfortunate, you can kind of hold your head up and say, yeah, I got really fit. And I think if you'd have trained for a marathon, you probably wouldn't have been able to do a marathon in your front room. I think that extra mental determination and grit that you developed during your training process probably helped you to achieve something that's actually really rather bonkers. I think I'd rather go to 10B and do an Ironman again before running 26 miles in like, was it 4 meters that your route?
It's 4 meters of space in here, and I know. When I think back on it, it's a very, very strange thing to think about, because I suppose my biggest fear going into the ultra was that I would never be able to replicate the time on my feet during training, because that's not obviously what you do anyway. And then as it turns out, I spent 10 hours on my feet anyway for this indoor marathon. But I didn't ever consider that was going to be a thing that would ever happen. So some amazing things have come from it. I raised some money, that was absolutely awesome. But linked to my training, I would never really have an opportunity to spend 10 hours on my feet. And the cutoff for the ultra is 10 hours anyway. So if I spent any longer than that, they'd be picking me up. But it's funny how those things ended up being more or less kind of intertwined. And I ended up doing an ultra distance on my feet in terms of hours, but obviously marathon distance in terms of meters.
But I think that's like a really. So I've been talking to Doug, my coach, about kind of. So I've been struggling on my bike a little bit because I'm doing a lot of indoor cycling at the moment, and I think I've lost a mental toughness that I've developed over last year. So there's this central governor theory where your brain is telling your body that it's exhausted and it needs to stop. And I think that you can, through training, kind of push how far you're able to push before you give up, if that makes sense. So your brain will always overpower your body, eventually, sort of thing. And everyone's got different limits as to how far they can walk. And I read a really good book called Endure, and it was saying that it's equivalent to doing a fire walk. You know, at the end of the fire walk is your mental limit, and everyone's fire walk is different in terms of how much they can endure before they kind of step off almost. And I think that you've got such a strong mindset, because not only did you spend 10 hours on your feet, you ran a marathon in your living room, but you did it whilst live streaming, which meant that everyone goes through bad times in a long distance event. So I've done like 12-hour and 24-hour guard race, and at some point you spit your dummy. You know, it's like you have a crap hour or whatever it is, but you managed to kind of maintain that. Or all the bits I saw, I certainly didn't see, you sitting in the corner crying and rocking yourself for comfort. It was like, that takes a bit of doing. I was really kind of humbled and proud of watching that, because like, what an impressive achievement. And that demonstrates the kind of mental toughness that you've either kind of got or you've created. It's amazing.
And some strange things have come off the back of that, because my channel had never been shared with family or friends. It was never my intention to do that, so they never even knew it existed. And really? I'm still not sure how they found out. But during the marathon, I think it must have been about 6 hours in, suddenly popped up in my comments my sister, and I thought that's really odd, because I don't know how you found my channel. And then my brother was there, and then my mum and dad, and then that kind of got circulated. They knew I was raising some money, so I sent the link. But on the Just Giving link, there was no reference to my YouTube page, because it kind of wasn't about me. It was more of a, this is where you need to find the information about what I'm doing. but then towards the end, my mum got on FaceTime and she was just running around the garden, and she's been, you know what it's like when you get a little bit older. She's trying to work on her fitness on kind of just a general level, just to maintain. And so I was really, really proud of what she did, because she set off. I said to her, "Well, don't start yet. You know, I'll let you know I've got a 5-minute countdown." She didn't listen to that. She started running, and sure enough, she ran for 25 minutes because I wasn't anywhere near the end yet. And
That's
then my
amazing.
my dad joined in, and it was just, I think, for them, having, and I've spoken to them since, my sister especially just says that having watched what I did, she was very inspired by it, and I hadn't quite realised or comprehended at the time that it required much mental toughness, other than the fact that I was walking, I was live streaming, I was having a pretty good time. The only thing that became a little bit frustrating was the fact that I went over the 10 hours by about 3 or 4 seconds. And the reason for that is because I was spending most of the time stopping, reading the comments, engaging with people. Now, it was never about the time, of course, but, you know, when you just think, just to have gone 9:59 would have been quite cool.
Come on, mate, you've got to do it again now.
Yeah, I don't know if I think, like everything, when you do something for the first time, when you do your first Ironman, whilst you understand what it involves, you don't know what it feels like. And I think when you do something for a second time, because you know what that's going to feel like, there is that little thing in your brain that says it's about to get hard right now. Whereas the first time you got that sort of naivety to it, which I think
there is.
Which really helped me, being naive to how long it would take for a start and what it really looked like to wander up and down the living room.
So there's a guy that I really love called Ross Edgley. And,
yes.
He's got an amazing saying, which is naive enough to start, dumb enough to finish. And you know, it's like, or dumb enough to start. Yeah, so basically he's saying, like, he does stuff without even thinking about it, but then he's so stubborn and like kind of fit single-minded that he just cracks on and finishes it. And there is that kind of element to it, isn't it? You kind of go into something, you don't really know what it's like. You can kind of read about it and you can talk to people about it and they can give their experiences. But I can sit and talk to you about an Ironman for hours and hours and hours. But until you actually experience it, every journey is different, isn't it? You know, like my experience can be completely different to your experience, and you know, your experience is going to be different to someone else's. So
I think what I've developed is permission to allow myself to not worry about, especially the pace. I think that's the one thing that tends to, in my experience, people I've spoken to, tends to ruin the enjoyment of it, because you don't allow yourself just to be in the moment. All you're thinking about is this, looking down, go, oh, I'm off pace. Whereas the reason for me doing the ultra was actually just to hit the reset button and just get myself out of the mindset of trying to break the 4-hour marathon, because that's what I was focusing on. And I could have continued to train, but it was kind of killing me inside that it didn't work very well for my second marathon, and I was holding on to it. Whereas what I needed to do was ignore it and go back to, if it takes me 6 hours, take 6 hours, but just, have a good time, smile through it.
Yeah. Do you know what? That's a really interesting point. So I don't know if you, and I don't want to talk about the channel because that sounds really kind of.
No, carry on.
I did a 1 minute time trial a couple of weeks ago, and I don't know what I was achieving, and I kind of said anything below 6 minutes 30, I'll be happy with. Now in my head, I thought I want to get sub 6 minutes. I want a 5-minute something mile, and I did 6 minutes 16, and I properly dropped. I had like a proper hissy fit, and I basically had a bottom lip for about 24 hours. And Kate was like, "Just grow up, you're able to run for a start. A lot of people can't run. Don't be a dick about it." Sort of thing. And then Doug was like, "Well, you've done a really good time there, and you've got a best 800 meter time. You've got a second best 1 kilometer time by only 1 second. And the reason you haven't got a 1 mile PB is because your mile PB was set on a downhill road. And I know the road that it was on, and it's like that. And it's like he said, like, if you go out and run your 1 mile now, you'd smash your previous PB because it's not truly indicative of what you are. And I'm very, very results focused. And I kind of know Andy Rayner, and Andy's just a monster on his feet.
He's a machine.
He is a machine, and there's James as well. So in that group, there's Andy and James and a couple of the other guys, and they're all beasts. They're absolute beasts. And I compare myself naturally to them now. I'm 10 years older than them, and also they're just great runners. They've got that that thing, you know, what DNA, whatever it is, that genetically allows them to run a pace that I can't sustain. But this thing bloody governs my life, and it's not meant to be good for you. I kind of, yeah, I'd love to be able to hit the reset button, but I did a race. I did this, my first ever Swift race on Sunday, and I was like, okay, I came like 59th out of 140. Oh, that's not great. And then I looked at the results on Training Peaks, and it was like PB. I had 20 PBs from like my power output, my heart rate output, and all these sorts of things. It's like, actually, yeah, stop worrying about it. I'm doing all right. But I'm so focused on other people, or so focused on trying to get the next PB. You can't always improve. Do you know what I mean? You can. I think, you know, it reaches a point where you can't improve your time, so you have to improve your enjoyment of the event. So I'm not going to get a 5-minute 20 mil. I can't do a 5-minute 20 mil. What I can do is set myself out to enjoy running a mile.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, you have to do that, don't you? You know, otherwise you're never going to be satisfied. You almost get into this loop of losing. Like, I used to work for a training company. They call this loser's loop, where you don't grow and learn from experience. All you do is you set yourself out for the next thing, and then you failure or success is not really relevant. It's just going back in and testing yourself again, test yourself again. You don't actually sit back and go, right, what's the experience? What have I learned from it? What was good? What was bad? How can I improve myself? And that's like real, true growth, isn't it? You know, it's you don't grow from the experience of doing it. You grow from thinking about it.
Yeah.
And I think what you've done is absolutely right. You kind of, if you're able just to take your garment off and say, I'm not going to worry about time. I just want to do something bigger and that's going to reset my brain.
Yeah, there's a few kind of funny things supposed to happen. When I did my first marathon, I was training with my uncle for a little bit of it. He had done, I think, 5 London marathons before that, and he had always wanted to break 4:30, and he hadn't done it. He got close the year before, and now he's 15 years older than me. And so when we're doing our training, I was still naive to it all, so I was just having a bit of a laugh and running along. There's a few times where he completely smashed me in the training runs, and I kind of got really emotional about it because he more or less left me in the dirt and off he went. But when it came to marathon day, he did London Marathon. That's about 2 weeks after Brighton. I did Brighton. I had no doubt in my mind I'd do 4:30, weirdly. No reason behind that. I just assumed I probably would. And I did 4:24. Now, he then had London Marathon. So this is quite a big year for him because not only does he want to break 4:30, he's also got my time in there. And because he's a very, very, very highly competitive person, the most competitive person I've ever met in my life, anything he does, he's very, very good at, he's very talented at. But the running had kind of escaped him. He's naturally good at running, but not the speed, just the ability to do it. So I remember tracking him, and he did 4 hours 27, and he kind of drew a line under it and said, I'm done. But I think he said to me it was a combination of the will to get under 4:30, but also that little bit inside, that fire that he didn't want me to beat him, and it kind of pulled him through. But in terms of competitiveness, my girlfriend, she's got a Fitbit, and the amount of days we spend looking at our watches, I say, how many steps have you got? And we walk more or less the same path. You know, I've got a Garmin, bit of a flash one, spent a bit of money on it, and mine says 1,000 steps. Hers says 2,000, and it's the most annoying thing.
Yeah.
There's those small things. Yeah, you think, but then you go, how irrelevant is this? Who actually cares? Who cares how many steps you've done? You know, it doesn't matter. So it's just trying to get into the mindset that I will always be up against people who are faster and always be up against people who are slower. This ultra marathon, I've got it behind me on the wall, just there, a piece of paper.
Yeah.
There's the guy who did the ultra marathon the year before, 2019, finished 40 miles in 4.5 hours. So with that on the wall, I can walk into it knowing I'm never going to win it. I can also walk into it knowing that if I care about it, I probably won't lose it. But I will lose it if I overcook it and end up sitting on the side of the road.
Yeah.
So that's there as a motivation to remind myself that you're not in it to win. You're in it to complete it and to be proud of your achievements, not to try and beat somebody else's time.
You're absolutely right. It's really interesting you say that, because I remember like finishing the Ironman. And I'm the same with all my events. I finished the Ironman and I walked around for the probably fortnight, 2 weeks after the Ironman, like, you know, just I was about 6 weeks taller than I am. You know, I was really proud of myself. And then you kind of start to think, just I did a 4 hour 40 marathon, so I could probably, I was aiming for 3 hour 45. So where can I say, well, I know that I had a bit of stomach problems, and it's like, actually, no, I'm missing the point on this, and I'm going into this losers league thing of not actually. It's not improving me if I'm always going to look and just go back and challenge myself dumbly. I need to take the experience for what it was, you know, and I've come to terms with that now. You're absolutely right. There's always going to be someone that's fitter than you, stronger than you,
yeah,
more technically able than you, and it's about competing with yourself, isn't it?
yeah. And I also,
that,
yeah, I recognise when I watch people on YouTube, some of them don't have jobs, or at least jobs that are the same as my job. So when I have to go and run, as I've seen in your videos, you're running around a pretty rough area at night. It's not pleasant. I don't have the luxury of running at 10 a.m. when the snow's cleared, when it's a bit sunnier, and I don't have the luxury of going out for 5 or 6 hours a day. I'm not a professional athlete, and I also recognise in myself that I've had to work hard to get to it. I wouldn't say I have a natural ability at running. I'd say that I've developed an ability to run better. But my cousin's just started running, and he's just decided to start doing 5Ks, and he just did a time the other day. It was like just under 21 minutes for one of his first 5Ks.
God
Well,
damn it.
there's something obviously in him that allows him to do it. He's a year or two younger than me, but he's weighs more. He's taller than me. Shape, size, whatever, that makes absolutely no difference. Some people just have a something about them. So, I mean, he'll be coaching me soon, I imagine. But I've just got out of the mindset now that the time thing. We also know you can fiddle the time. We all know that. We can all do the run to 500 meters, pause, another 500 meters, pause, and go, great, I got the fastest 5K. We know it happens.
Have you seen? There's a Twitter feed called Strava Wankers. Have you seen it?
No.
It's very, very funny, and they kind of pick up people that have done that. So it's like, fastest 5K PB, and then like you look at it, and there's like a 15-minute elapsed time. It's like, actually, no, your 19-minute 5K wasn't a 19-minute 5K because you paused your watch for it tracks it. So it's like there's a big thing at the moment. So the Ironman organisation is doing virtual races, VR, IMVR is called, and there's a lot of controversy. There's been a lot of controversy in the first couple because you've got like 63-year-old age groupers from somewhere that are suddenly posting just monster times. They're doing like a 90k on the bike indoors in 2.5 hours or something. It's like, there's no way you could do that. You only have to look at your previous race results, your Strava thing, and it's like, why kid yourself? It's no point, is there? Why bother? As long as you're enjoying the experience. And I think a bit of age helps with that, doesn't it? Okay. I mean, I'm always going to be my biggest critic. I'm always going to be disappointed with whatever I do. But I guess I'm mature enough now to recognise that I'm always going to be disappointed in myself. But it's not a negative anymore. It's about self-improvement. So although it probably comes across as quite negative, actually, that kind of perfectionism streak in me is what keeps me trying harder.
I watched Chris from Here We Are Running's video the other day, and he's setting about doing a sub 25k, and I had a go the other day. Bear in mind, I don't train for short distance anyway, and I did a 5k in, I think, just on 20 minutes 59 seconds. However, and it came from my watch as the fastest 5k. I actually declined it on purpose, so it's gone. The reason for that is because, like you say, I recognise that the route I took was more downhill than would be natural for me to run. And also, my fastest 5k before that was on my local park run course, which was undulating, and was at like 21 minutes 25. Well, I'd rather have that one with the up and down, because what I want to is actually break that PB in the same way on the same course. So I kind of decided at that point that we could all go and find, for a start, a track. Doing a 5k on a track, we'd all probably get a PB. because you're on your own, racing around the circle, it's dead flat. But it was when I saw that, I thought, oh yeah, actually, I'll have a little go over the next month or so. I've got a bit of time. 5K is pretty achievable to just sort of have a little crack at. But if I don't get there, because I race with Chris. Chris is, I think, similar to Andy, where he just sets off. And I think, whoa, he's there and he's vlogging at the same time. And we've had some races together where he just goes off into the distance. And that's what you think. I have to smile. Some people have just got it, and good luck to them. I hope they. I would prefer to see, even like yourself, I'd prefer to see you go out and achieve something and beat your time than me worry about trying to beat you. Because that's not going to really fire me up. But seeing you knock 10 minutes off is going to make me feel like, oh, if he can do it, then I can do it. But I'm not trying to beat you.
Yeah. No, that's a really good mindset to have, I think, and it's probably a really healthy, long-term mental well-being. It's a healthy, long-term attitude to have, isn't it? And I recognise in myself, I'm self-competitive, and I compare myself to others a lot, which isn't necessarily good, but I try and use it, like I said before, I try and use it in a positive way. So it keeps me coming back to kind of improve myself. And it's really difficult because we've got 3 kids, and our oldest is 10, and he's quite competitive, and he's competitive to the point of not actually wanting to compete because he doesn't want to lose. And I think if I can do anything of value, it will be to demonstrate to Callum and Finn that actually it's just turning up. That's all that matters. It's just being prepared to invest a bit of time and effort in training, but then kind of just having a go, and it doesn't matter where you are, if you're first or you're 100th, it doesn't matter, as long as you are prepared to do something and push yourself a little bit. That's the most important thing, and if you keep doing that, then that's the best lesson of all, isn't it? So I'm having to kind of moderate myself in front of Callum to pass on a kind of be a good role model, I guess.
It's really,
but in doing that, go on, sorry.
It's very, very tricky. I know that it was only probably 4 years ago that I was able to beat my dad at running. He's never been a runner, but he also never, ever let me win, ever. Yeah. And we go like 10-pin bowling, my mum always wins. We go mini golf, mum always wins. We were never allowed to beat them. They never gave us anything. But at the same time, I think there was a push to enter things and have a go and be reflective. And it was normally them who said, you could have done better. But for us, we were just kind of given that mindset of, if you want to beat somebody, then you need to put the hours in. And then if you don't beat them, then that's on you. But at the same time, don't beat yourself up about it, because you didn't set foot at the start line in a place where you could have beat them anyway.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's funny because my mum's just like that. When I beat my mum, and it was ball games, my mum was an absolute savage at drafts, actually. They weren't particularly supporting my parents. I don't know where I got it from, but my mum used to play drafts with me, and it's like, when you beat me, you've beaten me. It's not I've let you win. And I think it's quite healthy, isn't it? That, I think it's quite healthy to take some responsibility for yourself. If you don't do everything that you should do, it's the same as work, isn't it? If you don't do everything you can to create your best work or to do your best performance, then that's personal responsibility. I think it's an important thing to have. And I think that's where I am now, if I put in every single training session, if I put effort into every single training session, and I don't, and my ultimate dream is to qualify for GB in my age group for half Ironman distance. And if I turn up to a race and I've done everything I can and I don't qualify, I'll be gutted, but I'll know that I've not failed to achieve it because I've been lazy. I failed to achieve it because actually there's better guys out there than me. And I know there's better guys out there than me, like we've already spoken about. So I think that, the preparation is the important thing, isn't it, really? It's putting the time in and committing to doing something properly. And it goes back to that kind of why. It's the why. Why do I want to do an Ironman? Something I was dreamt of, and so in that case, I'm going to invest the time and effort. And a lot of people say that Ironman is a life-changing event, and they probably say the same thing about ultras. And you probably heard it yourself, that doing ultra run is a life-changing event. Actually, I think the journey to get to the Ironman or the ultra is the life-changing bit, because it teaches you discipline and commitment and focus and the importance of self-care and all these other things. And that's the kind of stuff that you can translate into other parts of your life. Running around with a number on is kind of irrelevant almost. It's the stuff you do before that that's the kind of bit that grows you as a person, I think.
I've seen the impact in my personal life and even work life just from doing the races and having the commitment to training. And I'm pretty kind of organized and very orderly in the way I do things. But when you have that experience behind you, I think you can start to put things into the order of priority. Everyone's got a to-do list, but actually, what are the things that move you forward? I've got certain training sessions this week, but actually, which one of those things, if I could only pick one, would be the one that'd be most beneficial to me? And also, I recognise there are limiting factors. So, say, for example, you spoke about your friend who lives in New Zealand. If I went and did a course in New Zealand, a race, he already has the advantage because he's local and he's run those trails before. I live somewhere where I don't have access to the trails. You live somewhere where you have better access to the trails. There are certain limiting factors, family, work, that you can only do certain things within your means. And we could all probably drop 100,000 on coaches, gear, and all sorts, and that would, improve. But we're not in a position to do that. So that's why I think it's being proud of the result you've got, that you did within your means, and being realistic. Because at the end of the day, if people don't necessarily care what time you got, especially people who don't have a clue about running. They don't ask that question. You saved on a marathon, they say, cool, can I look at the medal? I don't think anybody who's a non-runner has ever said to me, what was your split going through half?
God, no.
No one cares. They just go, wow, I couldn't do that. Move on.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you'll go, no, but you follow me on Strava.
It's important. Yeah, it's important. It's really interesting because I guess it's, I don't know, do you think it's a British thing? I don't know, like, some people are very status driven, aren't they? So like, you're defined by the job you've got, or the area that you live in, or the car you drive, and the position of the marathon you go. It's like, I remember talking to somebody about it just after I'd done the Ironman, and they were like, oh my God, so sorry, what's an Ironman like? Went through this, and that's mental. And it was like, I had to then go, and I was 400th out of 4,000, X many thousand, and like, whatever, I'm not really interested. You've done it, and that's impressive. And it's like, am I justifying it for me, or to kind of, am I showing off, or am I doing it to justify I don't know what it is. It's like, no one actually cares, do they? You're absolutely right. No one really cares. The fact you're out there doing it for yourself is an important bit, I guess.
No, there was a race that I won, and I've got a little trophy. And it was quite funny afterwards. Wow, you won a race. It was great. I said, yeah, I do know why I won the race, though, because the guy who was actually ahead of me, because I didn't know the course at all, I followed him all the way, and he kind of drifted off, and I passed him. Basically, I didn't quite win the race in the way that I would like. I didn't set off at the start and whiz through and dominate. I followed a guy until he got too tired and overtook him, which, a win's a win. But it wasn't. But then also I was brought immediately back down to earth because the guy said, he won. He didn't get the course record, though. And I said, okay. That was a far off. He's like, 3 minutes off. Okay. And he said, I'll see you next year. And it was just one of those, it was quite funny because I had a moment of maybe 2 seconds where I felt happy that I'd won. And then I was immediately kind of hit with, that quick note.
Yeah.
It might be a British thing.
I think it is. Isn't it? I think it really is. It's funny. I was third in a race, a trail race a couple of years ago called the White Brook Wind Up, and it's kind of it's just basically an up and a down. I think is it a 10K race? Yeah, 10K race. And I was like third in my age group. I was really chuffed with it. Like third in my age group and like sixth overall or something. And I was talking to a mate, and he's like, very similar to what you said. Yeah, but there was another race on it that same day, and that was where all the competitive races were. Thanks.
Yeah, well, you could have, you were with the slow lots. A third, actually,
Yeah, didn't see you at the
pretty
start
average.
then, mate. How are you? Yeah.
It's mad, isn't it? It is so mad.
Yeah.
But okay, so let's just talk briefly before we kind of round up. What's
Yeah.
you mentioned a little bit there. What is your main focus now? What are you training towards? What are some of the goals you've got? That's not necessarily like right now, but kind of that future. What does it look like for you?
So, short, medium, and long term then. So short term is to basically become a better kind of runner, cyclist. And in terms of what that means for me, it's about getting a better 5K time, and improving on the bike my functional threshold power, which is an amount of power output that you can sustain for a set period of time. So I want to get an over 300 FTP, a short term. Medium term, so moving into the winter, I'm eyeing up at the moment a cyclocross bike. So I'd like to take part in some cyclocross racing, with a view to just experiencing what that's like. And then long term remains what my goal was for this year, which is to qualify for age group GB in mid-distance triathlon, which is the half Ironman. So 1900 meter swim, a 56-mile cycle, and a half marathon. So I've got some races that I plan to be in this year. So yeah, that's what my focus is still on. But short term, and that's kind of rolling short term because of this weird time that we're living in. It's all about just finding the kind of weaknesses in me, and building those up. So kind of working on the bike stuff, working on my faster running because I've gone long and slow, and then she comes again. Yeah, so just become better, really. I guess more rounded and more robust. She's lovely. She's a pain, but she's lovely. Yeah, so yeah, just becoming more robust, really. So that, like we said a minute ago, I can stand on the start line of the qualifying race into 2021, knowing everything that's in my control has been controlled, and the stuff that's outside of it, whatever.
Well, I think you've achieved some phenomenal things, and you may not see it yourself, but we certainly see it as part of the community. And seeing your journey and following the highs and the lows has been something that I've been really intrigued by. And like I say, when I think about what I plan to in the future, you know, evolving from just running, I look to your channel because you're somebody I feel like I can relate to. And in talking with you today, it's obvious that you've put significant, as well as your family, significant amount of hours and effort, and not only just into the training, but the theory behind it, and investing in yourself, because these things cost not only time, but and money as well. So now, in terms of if people want to find out a little bit more about you, I know you've got your YouTube channel, you're now Goggles, Tyres and Trainers.
I am, yeah.
You've changed that. But in terms of connecting, is that the best place to find you? I know you're on Instagram as well. If people want to drop a message, where's best to kind of interact?
Yeah, so Goggles, Tyres and Trainers is my YouTube channel. And if anyone wants to kind of message me through that, then please do so. And then on Instagram, I'm IJBeds, BEDDS. Yeah, so just drop me a message. I love talking about stuff like this, and it was an absolute pleasure to meet you, Dan. So I was more interested in talking to you face to face than it was in kind of getting an interview or anything. It was more about an opportunity to have a chat because you're such a cool character. So yeah, either message me on YouTube or on Instagram if you're interested. But yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to put the links down below anyway to all of your social media so people can find that. And then if you drop a comment, I'll pin you to the top, and then people can find you straight away without having to click any links. But yeah, I really did want to connect with you and have a chat and just find out a little bit more about your story. So I'm really pleased to have had the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I say, and it was more for me as soon as you mentioned it in one of your videos. It's like, yeah, I'll get the chance to have a chat with you because you've done some very cool stuff. I wish I'd asked you more questions now, but that would be another time, I think. But it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
No problem at all. Well, we can always,
as well.
Thank you. We can always do, let's do another video in the future and give it a couple of months and then just do a little catch up and see how we're both.
We'll do a revenge tour on my channel as well, if that's all right. I'll get to ask you lots of questions then, if that's all right.
Absolutely. Whenever. Just
congratulations on your subs, mate. I see you've gone over 300 and your channel's growing, which is well deserved.
It's mad. But as we say, this kind of strange period of time, I think because I'm off, I'm doing these chats and people are interested in that. And actually that for me has been really enjoyable. It's really fun content to make. I get to have a chat.
Yeah.
And yeah, the subs are growing. Don't know who they are. Thanks a lot to everybody who's subbed away. But yeah, it's just been great to see a little bit of circulation of the content as well online, other people sharing it. So that's really cool.
Cool. All right, mate.
All right. Have an awesome rest of the day.
And you, mate. Good luck for the rest of the week.
All right.
Have a good week training.
Cheers. All right. Take care. See you soon.
Bye.